Movie review. Can you see that? There we go. My favorite theater. That's my favorite theater. All right. I think I'm ready to do a review about a very interesting guy. It's so funny because I actually just seen one of the actors in, what's his name? Ron Perlman, the one with the jaw, white guy with the deep voice. He's like does motorcycle stuff on TV. He's like a really good actor. He's been around 150 years. I don't know. But they paired him up with this British guy who's playing an ADOS character, which is an American descendant of slaves. And I tell you, he did a good job. He had the right swag. It was believable that he was ADOS. I have to give him a lot of credit. Only thing they didn't do was the mustache of the character, because this is a true story. This is a story about the United States of America's first black marshal. And let me tell you, I didn't know anything coming into this movie. You know, I just showed up and this is what was given to me. I didn't know that there was going to be some sort of black cowboy-esque-ness to it because I saw the poster and it was like, it felt like a black cowboy movie. I didn't know this was about a true story about a guy named Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves. And in Arkansas, there's actually this monument for him where he's like sitting on a horse and he has like the shotgun and he's like has this little dog riding with him. It's really cool. I'm going to make sure that I take the kids there to check this out. I even would think that, see, the movie might be too violent for my children because I have them, we on some like non-violent movie kind of a thing. But I have to tell you, I'm very tempted to take my children to see this movie, Hell on the Border. And will they look at it as gratuitous violence? And Daddy, you never let us watch any shooting. Why can't we see shooting now? It's just, I gotta tell you, I'm just fiending for my kids to see something black. You know, especially ADOS. And I think that the characters did really good portraying ADOS. And I like the fact that they didn't use some real contemporary, you know, cadence to their voice. It was real. It was like a southern, you know, it was not period, but it wasn't, you know, like that crappy Harriet Tubman movie where the guy sounds like he's, you know, coming straight out of Atlanta, Georgia, you know, off of Peachtree Mall, and he's like, yo, 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 was really good. It was, you know, 10 times better than that crap. But this movie depicts, from the little bit of history that I did on the guy after the movie, which was, I just, I Googled the guy and I found out a lot of great stuff. And then, like everyone else, there's always the controversy, you know, about, like in the movie, let's go back to the movie review. The movie review, do I tell you at the end or do I tell you now? It doesn't really matter, right? I say it's definitely a must-see for ADOS. Good story. You know, it was able to touch on... You see, like for me, I don't like movies that show us senselessly, you know, just following law and order and, you know, living in a world where there's this hierarchy and, you know, you listen to the president, this is what he says, you march up that hill, young man. You know, I don't want to march up the hill. I'm not trying to lose my life, but you know what? There was a time in my life where I was a soldier. You know, I was a soldier and I was able to be led. Not by many though, honestly. It wasn't like I could just be told by somebody in charge what to do. No. I wasn't blindly following anyone ever. That's why I never joined a gang. I was not going to follow that guy's word because of his rank and then go hurt somebody or go do something like, no. So, you know, I'm not into movies like that. But for historical purposes, I like this movie. I like this movie for historical purposes because this movie is about ADOS. And we need stories about ADOS. And I also saw that this guy, Bass Reeves, was like a legend. Seriously, he was like a legend. They wrote like, they have like albums, and the stories of his they would tell along, you know, singing like little tunes in the background, and you would play these albums for the family. So I can imagine there was just tons of ADOS families in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that, you know, little boys, when they was, you know, they had their badge on their chest and they wanted to be this guy. You know, they wanted to be this man. He was a legend. He was like a living legend, a story worth telling, I'm sure, about an ADOS man who lived as a slave, was picked up by Indian and learned the Indian language, blended in with them, and then went off on his own and had a family. And the woman that he had the family with was a strong red bone, kind of looked like she could have been half Indian. You know, she had that long hair. He probably, you know, snatched her up when she was young or whatever have you, because he was much older. Look, but even though she had a bit of a wear on her, the movie showed it did a good job with his wife on pushing, because I can tell that this woman is wearing makeup. This woman has that, you know, that somber look of just hardworking, humble, submissive, but yet in charge of what's going on in the home and taking care of all that and having a say and being encouraging to her husband and letting him know that I got your back. You know, to see the black woman step up, where in the very, very beginning when he first came home on a mission. See, the movie opens up where there's some sort of like just this parade of just law. And this law is just, you know, passing down sentences to these human beings like candy. And there was another woman who was pulling the strings of this, what would we call this guy? This guy was, he was like a judge. So there's this judge in this town, and this is like a major town, you know, maybe 200 people, 300 people, something like that, you know. And it was a town in where there was legislation, and part of that legislation was this judge that was handing out death sentences like it was candy. The movie starts with 5. Let me move out of this guy's way. The movie starts off with 5. That's a big old garbage truck picking up the garbage next to me. I was just on Madison Avenue, and I just love these stores, you know. So I find myself wanting to just slow down by the stores. Let me move over here this way. And what I was thinking. Oh, yeah, so the movie opens up with this judge, and this judge is so conflicted. Like, he just feels so horrible, so guilty. He's putting all these men to death at one time. Like, this is just like, it's like absurd almost. And what happened is this woman, she's his secretary or his assistant, and she seems to be pulling a lot of the strings, like truly manipulating the man, this woman. Women are so powerful. They can wrap us around their fingers. They have so much power, and sometimes I look at women now and I say, are you using your power properly, or are you just trying to impress the man so dang much? And this woman, she was very coy with this guy, and she was extremely manipulative, and she was able to manipulate this man to go against his better judgment on just taking human life. They were having 5-minute trials, and they were just hanging people, and she was there to bend his ear about doing the law, and I think she even quoted a Bible quote or whatever. I was like, whoa. And I kind of hate that stuff with these, I definitely am not into movies where there's just so much manipulation of the human's inner knowing. Like, this person knew that this was horrible to do this. And there's a heavy weight that comes on your chest. So the scene flashes to the main character. He's like a British guy. I think it's David something. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I'm not going to even try. I can't even remember. Oh, and I saw that this movie was directed by this guy named, I think his name is Wes Miller. And this guy's, I believe, ADOS. And I'm excited to check out his other stuff that he's done. And something, I think the wife in this movie, there's another movie that he directed, I believe, and she's in it. And it looks very, very interesting. So I can't wait to check it out. I'm just so happy to see ADOS directing movies and making stories happen. There's so much stories out there that, like, the point of view I would like to see. Like, I don't want to clash two movies, but the other day I did see the movie The Great War. There's a difference who's directing the movie. We got this guy directing this Bass Reeves story. Should be a black man directing that, and he did, and I kind of felt that. Whereas the Great War, not so much. I would like to see an ADOS director direct that movie. And just to go back to the Bass Reeves story, it was pretty good. It was very believable. This guy is even though there was a bit of he came to the, all right, so we're going back to the part where we first meet him, and he's walking alongside of one of the marshals who's on a horse. And I like that, because from what I was always told and from what I knew, you really saw a black man on a horse. That right there was like the scariest thing for a white man to see, was a black man on a horse. It just drove them crazy. It just didn't work for their brains. And this movie shows him walking alongside, and they get to find the person they were looking for. They're like bounty hunters kind of a thing, marshals, and which is when we bump into Ron Pullman or something like that. and he's been around forever. And I always like the stuff he's in. I loved him in Blade. I'll be lying if I say I think of him, I go to Blade. I don't go to that motorcycle movies or that TV shows that he did. And then I heard he doesn't even ride motorcycles. But he's an actor, so he shouldn't have to. So, not everybody's Tom Cruise. Come on, forget about it. But he's challenged by, there's a horse that can't even get out of the mud. This guy's on top of the horse. He knows if he gets off of the horse, he's going to get stuck in the mud as well. So he's just like, probably been on the horse in this position for a day, at least 12 hours. And he's asleep on the horse. It looks like he's dead, and we find out that he's not dead. He's alive, and it's Ron's character, and he became like the comic relief kind of a thing. He became, I wouldn't call him the jester in the, in front of the king or anything like that, but he provided that he took the edge off in a good way, and if that was the role he was supposed to play, he did it really well, all the way to the end of the movie, despite the fact that he did get shot in the leg, and there was very little acknowledgement of that towards the end of the movie. Like, hello, you should be limping a little bit. You should have a cane, a crutch. A crutch would have been cool. Well, I mean, not the very end when they roar it right off, but, so he gets the guy off the horse by walking in the mud that's nearly impossible to walk alone, let alone carry someone, and then go back and then help the horse out. And he did all this while the marshal took the guy up ahead along the road, and was given a court date the next day. They were gonna try this guy for his crimes, Ron's character. And really interesting thing happened. The woman suggested to the town judge to make this man to make the character, to make Bass Reeves, make Bass Reeves a marshal. And he was like, I can't make a black man a marshal. And they kept saying stuff like how progressive they were, but it's not that time. And it just makes me think of everything we hear all the time, and people talk about how progressives are moderates and how the right and the left, it's like we still talking the same BS from 100 years ago. Not much has changed for the black man in 100 damn years. Let's just keep it real. Okay? Still a lot of places you can't go. Don't get it twisted. And if you can go, you can't afford to stay. I'm just saying. So now, I can't stay long. We let you in, but how long are you gonna be here, buddy, bruh? Know what I'm saying? So now, this is one of the best parts of the movie, is that this woman is telling the magistrate of the town, the judge, you should give that man right there, he's one of the best gunmen you're ever gonna find. Make him a marshal. All these other marshals, they're jokes. And they don't have what it takes in this time. We're always in this era of time where it's never been quite like this before. So we must be so aware of our time. So now, the judge steps to Bass, and he's like, why are you so dirty? Why is your horse so dirty? And he was just like, just so happened that we're like that. No big deal. And he says, yo, earlier today, the marshal brought in a prisoner that was just as dirty as that horse and you are. But yet the marshal didn't have a drop of dirt on him. Why is that? And then he stops and he says, whatever the marshal said is the reason why we're dirty is why we're dirty. Then the guy goes on and says, I give you $20 if you tell me why you guys are so dirty. And mind you, this is a guy making $3 a week, probably once a month, whenever they call him to help out with, like, you know, trying to find somebody. So he's about to make $20. And what does he do? He says, like, yo, I can't help you, sir. I'm dirty, the horse is dirty, the other guy's dirty. We all dirty for the reason that the marshal said we're dirty. I don't go against the people I'm working for. Like, you couldn't pay me. Ain't enough money. Then he even said something like, yo, there's not even enough money that you can pay me to tempt me to go against my boss. And I was like, I like that scene, man. Because, yo, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be, man. I was recently at a friend's, my friend Ray. He has a warehouse. And this warehouse is full of all these refrigerators and all these stoves. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of refrigerators and stoves and air conditioning and all this kind of craziness. And he hires this Polish guy. And the Polish guy is like doing all these odds and ends and picking up things and moving the 100 refrigerators to the side of the room and the other. And I think he probably pays them, I don't know, maybe $50 a night. You know, and he works for a few hours. And, yo, this guy started talking bad about, you know, his boss. Like, yeah, you know, I'm over. I said, whoa. I said, do me a favor. You can't talk about my friend. You cannot talk about him. Sorry. I don't play that. So anything you want to say about him, I don't need to know. Keep it to yourself. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I said, yeah, because, you know, I'm not going to just sit around joking with you. That ain't going to happen. You know, show some damn respect to your boss, you know? And I was, like, really feeling this movie when they showed that, because I remember me, you know, being in, you know, situations when I was doing, you know, working in the bar business. And, you know, I had to play the bad guy, you know, for the boss. I had to tell the people no, they couldn't come in for the boss. And I had to take all the weight for that. And I would never, ever say, you know, I'm just doing what I'm told. I got to listen to the boss. You know, they tell me what to do. I didn't do that. I was just like, listen, it is what it is. Sorry. If you see the boss, you have a word with the boss. And the boss tells me something different, you know, then. But until then, this is how we're doing it. And this is the decision I'm making. And that's the way it was in this movie. You know, Bass was able to make a decision and stick to his guns about integrity. And you don't really see that. You always see the black man in the movie willing to take that $20 and put it in his pocket, you know, and just get in the bag. Everybody just get in the bag. So it was really cool to see that it wasn't about the bag. It was about integrity, you know. Even though there's parts of this movie that I disagree with, you know, I disagree with this blind allegiance to, you know, prove yourself to a group of people. But you know what? Sometimes you got to prove yourself in life just to keep going, just for your own sake. Another garbage truck. I mean, they're just like totally using massive resources in the city. Now I got to move again because there's a huge garbage truck picking up. Oh, wow, look, homeless person right there. Let me just chill right here. Show you how they live over here on Madison Avenue. The homeless are popping. Can you see it from there? What's interesting is that they do have holes on the side of their box where they can breathe, you know? So I think that's interesting, too. Like breathe holes or little peekaboo holes, maybe. tell you, this person in this weather, in this nasty, nasty weather, is in a dry spot. There's like a rug underneath the box, and the surroundings are beautiful. You know, so then we have Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves is like, you know, he has this desire to prove himself. You know, it's like a very strong desire to prove himself, to want to be able to like fit in a world where he didn't fit in. You know, it was, I wouldn't call it racism around him, it was white supremacy was around him, you know? Like he couldn't step into the courtroom a certain way. He couldn't, what else? What else couldn't he do? Which, that was a total truth drop. I know, I'm sure there's a lot of Moors that are going crazy over that scene. I don't know enough to even go there. About the courtroom, and I know it's supposed to be something to do with like on a ship, and when you step to the, I don't know enough to even go there. But I feel like that was a huge truth drop, big time. And then even the power that was given to the judge to be able to give it and take it that away, you know, as if he's like, yo, I got the president on speed dial. It's very, 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 very interesting. The passion that people have, this desire that we have to want to prove ourselves and just say, look, I can do it too. I am just as good as you. You know, all those kind of things. And I guess that's what makes us humans, you know. So the movie was pretty good, you know. We got the first taste of Bass's ability to shoot a gun. Is when he walks into, what does he do? Oh yeah, he walks into a murder in progress where there's this young Indian guy who was pissed off about the killing and the hanging of his brother that night before. So when he saw this magistrate who would not be walking around without security, that's not real. You know, he showed up with a few of his boys and his brother's boys, I guess, and they surrounded him with guns, and he hesitated. And, you know, Bass was like, listen, just walk away. Bass was talking to him in his native tongue and like some kind of, you know, the dialect that they were, I don't know how genuine it was to the movie. I would hope that this director, you know, didn't treat this like Die Hard. You know, the movie Die Hard 1, when they, you know, the bad guys was running all through the building and they were talking in this certain language. That was just straight gibberish. That wasn't even a language. They were just, the director just was like, just sound like, like it was just kind of rude in my mind. But I don't know if this director did that. I don't know. I would have to do a little more research. But, you know, he was able to take the guys out. And what I did like about that scene and what I didn't like about that scene. What I liked about that scene was that he didn't do it very fast. The shooting that he did wasn't a very fast. It was just very aimed. It was very aimed. It was very strategic. He even hesitated in the last shot. And I think the hesitation was because the person was a white man, and you're not allowed to kill a white man unless you are a marshal or unless you are some sort of lawman. Other than that, you can then be charged with a crime, even though you were stopping a crime. So we got to see his skills, or at least the fact that when he released the bullet, it hit the target perfectly. And then he was able to, he actually let that young guy go who was there to avenge the death of his brother, who comes back later on in the movie, of course, like Benny Blanco from the Bronx. comes back at Calito. You know, that's why sometimes when you got the drop, you got to take it, because if not, you know, Benny Blanco from the Bronx is always going to come back. Always. So now, Bass Reeves' character, what is he doing now? He's, oh yeah, so now he has to now the magistrate is convinced, I gotta hire this guy as a marshal. Now I have to hire him as a marshal, because, and I'll just make it retroactive so that he doesn't, you know, get killed or get brought up on charges for killing the white man that was drawing his gun on us. So I also like the next scene where in the courtroom, when he made the move to do that, the people around him fought him so hard, and then even reasoned with the magistrate, so much so that he had so many second guesses that he took it back and was just like, nah, I can't do this. I can't give this to you. You know, we're just going to have to figure out something around the law, you know? But I just can't do it to you. Matter of fact, I think it was about the fact that he couldn't read. And then his wife stood up and she said a few words, and he just went over to his wife, and he wasn't embarrassed by her stepping up for him. It was good to see the black love like that. You know, I don't see that. You don't ever get to see that. And that was beautiful. She stood up for him in his deposition or something to that effect, when they took away his badge right after giving it to him. So he had it all of 5 minutes. And, you know, he really wanted to prove himself that he could be the best marshal he can be, you know? He really, really believed in that. And it made sense to him. Honor and that kind of allegiance to something. To America, to his country. Like, he felt like, I am an American and I will uphold the laws. You know, it's kind of like not my thing. I'm not into a movie like that, but to see that this is real, this is history. You know, this is a black American descendant of slave, and he is representing for the country that he built. I mean, in this movie, this is about a man. They show his, when he was in the bed with his wife, or in the bedroom, they show the scars on his back from the lynching, or not the lynching, the whipping, you know, from being born a slave and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty powerful to see that, and it was done in such a subtle way. There wasn't a lot of music behind it, trying to force the emotion, none of that. It was simple and it was easy, and you were in the room. You were not like eavesdropping in the room. You were probably like the character in the room. It was more like that, like you were part of the wife at that moment, or then you were part of being on the road by the fire at that moment. You felt like you were inside of the movie more so than eavesdropping on the movie. You weren't peekabooing into the situation. You were part of it in a really, really cool way. And I like the way the director was able to have me feel that, think that. You know, the scenes when they were really in a small, like what appeared to be log cabin setting, and these are real tight shots. They're not moving around too much, and just the people in the background, their presence wasn't overdone. You know, they were fine. The extras that were there it was realistic. You kind of could smell the room was a little musty, you know, like the girls were a little musty under the arms, and it felt like you could be in this room as even just like a patron. It made sense. You understood it. And I think the director was able to really, really do that well. And they was able to light it really well too. You know, it was tight shots, well lit, not a lot of light, but enough light to represent that this is the nighttime, this is the daytime, and these are the shadows, and we're gonna make them work. So I do think that this director knows how to light ADOS properly, and I appreciate that, you know. And also, you know, this is the part when we go to a scene where the main character, this bad guy, this guy's been around for like 100 years. He has what I refer to as the skeletal look, you know, like, and you can see all parts of his like, you know, his facial features, very skeletal face, which works well for the villain. You know, if you're gonna be a villain, you know, why not have a, you know, such a deaf look, you know, like, you know, you look like you're 1 foot in the grave already. And I would believe, and I would argue that the men probably looked like that back in the day, you know, on whatever diets they were on, you know. Having to ride those horses, you would need to be on the thinner side. So his character was kind of evil and demented, and he also had scars on his back, so he was like some sort of slave. What kind of slave, I don't know. There was an introduction of a character that was part of the first group that went to find this guy, this bad guy, and he had the worst accent I've ever heard. Like, I mean, I think he was supposed to be like Scottish. I was like, oh my God, that's the worst Scottish accent I've ever heard. But, you know, what you gonna do? You know, you work with what you got. You know, like, yo, put my boy in the movie. Come on, he's good people. Come on. Remember the last time? Come on, I got you. Put him in the movie for me. Come on, he's good people. So, you know, I get it. But that was like the worst. I was like, whoa, what hell's going on here? But, you know, there was a shootout that didn't really quite make sense. You know, this guy was able to shoot all these weird angles, but then it was probably all his homeboys, and he didn't do a shot. So he had a crew, and then the crew gets met with, you know, then the crew go up against Bass, and Bass is like this amazing shot, and he takes out the lights, and, you know, this movie was basically showing you how no man is an island, and you're gonna need to be able to gather up the crew together to get this thing going. And, you know, I liked it. It was good. It was like little scenes like that. All right, but let me say this: there was a scene when they were, Bass just like became like he's like a real cop. Bass is like a real cop, where he just like wants to stop crime, you know, and he sees, like, you know, these women and these guys, and they're shooting and they're being chased, and he just runs to go help, blindly runs to help these people, risking his own life. And there was a scene where these people that he rescued, they're like spending the night together. They decided to travel maybe to the next town, and they're spending the night together. And there was this young lady, and she was singing. She sounds like Beyonce when she sings, you know, very Beyonce voice, and brown skin cutie too. And next thing you know, they all sitting there, and there's like a fire, and they're around the campfire, like kind of, you know, doing the cowboy thing. And all their boots were brand new, not a scuff on the bottom of their boots. I kid you not. Not a scuff on a boot. I was like, no one's gonna notice that but me. But it was hilarious. I was like, these guys, like, all their clothes. Sorry, long day. Long day. It was a good movie. I recommend it. I give it 2 thumbs up. I give it only like 5, 6 out of 10, and 3.5 out of 5. 5 stars. It's not 5 stars. But it's good. And it's ADOS. It's a story about a guy from Arkansas. They got a whole memorial for this guy. And he like captured like 3,000 people. There must be so many stories that you can tell. There can be a whole TV series. Come on. Let's get, what's his name on top of this? He has all the studios now. What is this guy? Yeah, that's what's his name? Wes Miller needs to talk to Tyler Perry and say, listen, I got an idea. We need 20 episodes. I would watch that. And then I did a little research that supposedly he had to, even when he became a marshal, he actually had to go look for his own son. His son was wanted for murder. Wow. I wouldn't mind seeing that episode. That sounds juicy. That sounds like, we could get like some therapy sessions out of this. Let's get that movie made. I want to see that. So, once again, 2 thumbs up. If that's how you like to know whether a movie's good to go see. If it's 5 stars you want, I'm only going to give it 3.5. Okay? Sorry. And if you go by 1 out of 10, a lot of people like, 1 out of 10, what do you give it? I give it 7.5. Really 6. But that's only because I'm looking at it from it's digital. It's a digital movie. Had it been on film, it would have been 10 times more better than that. But who the hell can afford film? They'll never get a movie made. So I get that too. I do get it. And I do like the fact that it wasn't like a lot. I don't think there was shooting, but there wasn't a lot of blood and stuff like that. Like even he was shot in the abdomen and there was, not a lot of blood. So it's good. The kids nowadays can handle it. My kids, I'm sure they can handle it. I don't know if I want to take them to just start seeing to shoot him up, where I've never let them see these kind of movies ever, and they're 9 and 7. So check the movie out. If you're ADOS, this is a good movie for ADOS. If you FBA, this is a good movie for FBA. If you're from America, check this movie out. This is a good American story.